The city was covered in a silent, cold layer of white snow. A lone man walked through the icy streets. A voice on the phone asked, "Have you ever had feelings for her?" He hesitated. "I don't think so. Not once since we met, but I think. There are other kinds of love besides romantic love." A woman knelt nearby, feeding a stray cat. Her hands trembled from the cold, but she had heard everything. The man was completely unaware of her presence. He continued, "I will still marry her, because it is the right thing to do. She saved my family, so I will always be by her side. I will tell her I love her every day if she wants, and live the rest of my life like that to repay Yumin and keep her by my side." Her hair fell down, covering her stunned eyes. The truth, something she had never known, came crashing down in the cold winter air. A few days later, Yumin sat with that man in a cafe, while a group of people nearby whispered about a scandal of a celebrity. "Yumin," he called her name calmly, "have you thought about a wedding venue yet?" She looked at her reflection in the window, telling herself not to be weak. She reminded herself, remembering the devastating words she heard that day. She asked, "Are you sure you want to marry me?" She asked with a serious expression. "Of course, I would be the luckiest man alive to have you as my wife." He was always like that, saying the sweetest things. That was one of the reasons she loved him. The man gently reached out and took her hand. "I love you," he admitted. She pulled her hand back. "What a shame, because I don't love you anymore." She gave a bright, confident smile. "All your words are so charmingly cruel, and I hope you get hurt just like I was." Yumin, his voice trailed off, but she cut him off. "Let's call off the engagement," she said, clenching her fists. The atmosphere in the cafe suddenly grew heavy, and conversations died down. Everyone had heard, and it was Christmas Eve. A terrible night to be rejected. Everyone around whispered about a guy getting dumped on Christmas Eve. A heavy silence stretched between them before he finally spoke. "Why so sudden?" She leaned back, running her fingers through her hair. "I think we should be honest. Being with you feels like a bit of a waste. For me, anyway," she said, with a mocking tone and expression. Whispers spread throughout the cafe as people looked at her in confusion. The man in front of her was he was a perfect match for her, but she just smiled politely, completely unfazed. "Like I said, I am tired of you. We have been together for 6 years. Isn't that long enough? Let's just end it here, okay?" 3 months later, as Yumin was walking down the street, she saw a cute couple affectionately taking pictures. She stood watching them like a ghost. It even creeped the couple out, but she was still envious of them. She once thought she had that kind of perfect happiness too. And in the end, it turned out so tragically. "I guess I am still not over it." Yumin quietly watched them. The pain was visible in her eyes, even though the relationship had ended after all those years. Since the breakup, she had poured all her energy into work. She was the CEO of a handbag company, completely devoted to her job. Yumin hurriedly dragged her bags to the office. She was late because she had been staring at that couple. Seeing her condition, her junior employees were worried. "She looks so worn out, she looks so pitiful," the employees whispered. "Yumin looks more haggard every day. I wonder if she is okay. It is probably from overworking. It seems she has been like this for 3 months. A friend watched her with a worried gaze. Yumin leaned back to rest for a bit in her office. She could hear them gossiping about her. Everyone was worried. She told herself, "Please, pull yourself together, Yumin. I am a mess because of my ex, but I am the one who dumped him. It is so ridiculous. I worked so hard to build this career. I cannot let everything collapse over a relationship. So many people are working hard for me," she reassured herself. "That is right. That guy means nothing anymore. Just forget him." But a second later, she shot up again with frustration. "But seriously, I wasted my entire youth on him. And for what?" Her friend walked in. "Hey Yumin, how are you feeling now?" she asked. "Oh, I am fine now," Yumin replied. Her friend said, "You really startled us when you came in. Drink some hot tea. It will help you feel better." She added, "Don't overwork yourself when you are feeling down, okay?" Yes, Grandma, I got it." Her friend was worried because Yumin had been isolating herself. It wasn't healthy for her to just work all the time. "I have to get her mind off her ex," she thought. "If you are not busy tonight, let's go out," she suggested. "Yeah, okay. Where to?" Yumin asked. "There is a birthday party for a friend. Let's go together," her friend said. "Oh, I would love to," Yumin replied with a smile. That evening, they went to the birthday party. The party was held at a lively club. Yumin and her friend walked over to give a birthday gift to the host. Everyone greeted her cheerfully. "Seo Young, happy birthday. This is for you." "Hello, Seo Young," the birthday girl said cheerfully. "You guys are so busy, but you still came to celebrate with me. Thanks so much. Go ahead and eat and mingle. They are all my close friends," Seo Young said. Yumin's friend said cheerfully, "Now let's go fill our stomachs and drink away our sorrows," her friend suddenly said. "Yumin, I am going to the restroom for a bit. You go on ahead." Yumin walked into the lively party, surrounded by noise. She got some snacks and found an empty spot. She enjoyed them quietly, and when she turned, she noticed a young man sitting alone next to her. "Hi, are you a friend of Seo Young's?" she asked. "No," he replied curtly. "Oh, I see," she said awkwardly. Yumin felt a bit embarrassed for starting a conversation with a strange man. Getting shot down like that was harsh. Ha ha, but she was not giving up yet. A moment later, she tried to start a conversation again, but he remained curt and indifferent from the start. He didn't even bother to look at her. Finally, he turned, stared at her, and said, "Look, can you please stop talking to me?" he asked in an ice-cold voice. Fine, I am done talking to you anyway, she thought. But a second later, he suddenly leaned in close, startling her. Have we met before? He asked. No, I have never met you, she replied. Maybe you are a celebrity or a singer, he continued. No, I am just a normal person, she said, and continued eating. He lowered his head, his eyes deep in thought. Is he hitting on me? Is this how people flirt now? But with a face like that, I guess he doesn't need any skills, Yumin thought, glancing at him. Right after that, his phone rang. He answered it, then suddenly pushed his chair back and shot up, startling Yumin. She looked at the toppled chair as he rushed towards the door. Must be something urgent, she guessed. But when she turned back, she saw he had left his wallet on the table. She picked it up, opened it, and saw his ID card inside. Without hesitating, she ran after him to return it but could not see him anywhere. She turned back, planning to give the wallet to the staff. Just as she turned, a man's voice made her freeze. Are you crazy? How did you know I was here? She pressed herself against the wall and saw him talking to a woman. I saw it on Taegun's Instagram, the woman replied. Yumin leaned her head against the wall, listening. It sounded like a lover's quarrel. Then she heard words as sharp and cold as a knife. I dated you because I felt sorry for you. It was never love. Her breath caught in her throat. Those words dredged up the painful memories she had tried to bury. I am not running a charity here. Every time you are like this, it is so annoying. It is best we go our separate ways. Stop acting so foolishly, he added coldly. Every time you are like this, it is so annoying. It is best we go our separate ways. Stop acting so foolishly. The woman finally spoke, her voice trembling. Hyunju, you can say that now, but I know you will stay with me forever. I know it. You will love me again. Hyunju clenched his jaw, was silent for a moment, then let out a bitter laugh. I might have done that before, but now I am sick of pretending to love you. The woman flinched slightly at his words. Pretending to love you for all that time was really tiring, but you gotta enjoy those years, didn't you? So why don't you thank me, he added viciously. Just then, something came flying through the air. It hit the back of his head hard with a thwack. Here is your wallet. Yumin stood there panting, her eyes full of contempt. The worst kind of trash in the world are men like him who lie about love, just like the ex-boyfriend she wasted 6 years of her life on. On that cold morning, the moment she sat in a corner, dwelling on the pain she had to endure. She was in agony, her tears falling endlessly. The moment she sat in a corner, dwelling on the pain she had to endure. She was in agony, her tears falling endlessly. He was only going to marry me because I was his benefactor. How could he have never had feelings for me? How is that repaying a favor? Who asked for that, she thought, standing firm, her hands clenched. Hyunju caught the wallet that had just fallen from his head. His face darkened, he turned around, his gaze as sharp as a knife, locking onto her. Without hesitation, he strode forward, stopping right in front of her. Backtracking to the party earlier, Ji-hee went back to find Yumin. She glanced around. Ah, there she is, sitting over there. Wait, where is she looking to be saying that? Huh, what's this? Ji-hee panicked. What's going on? I wasn't alone, I just went to the restroom for a minute. Right then, a bookish-looking guy with blonde hair appeared. Standing right behind Ji-hee, they both instinctively turned to look at each other, a bit awkwardly. The guy waved his hands defensively. Whoa, sorry, I'm not a creep. I was just so preoccupied I didn't even see you. Ji-hee said gently, it's okay, it was just a coincidence. Inwardly, she was thrilled. This guy is so cute. She turned to whisper. Is that man over there your friend? He looks like a celebrity. The guy stammered, ah, yes. Ji-hee continued to ask, so is he single? Yes, he is. I'm so glad my friend is single too. The two turned to make small talk. I don't get it either, so let's just skip it and focus on our main characters. We'll get to that other couple later. Ha! A loud noise suddenly echoed, and they both looked in the same direction. In front of them were two empty chairs, back to the present, where our main characters meet in the alley. His eyes bored into hers. Who are you? Why are you here and why are you following me? His voice was angry, enunciating every word. Yumin answered a bit awkwardly. I wasn't actually following you. Hyunju's gaze remained cold as he asked curtly. Are you recording anything? Behind him, the other woman quietly pulled her hat down, trying to hide her face. No, I don't have time for that. I just came to return your wallet, Yumin replied firmly. Hyunju glanced at the wallet in her hand and sighed in relief. She was telling the truth. Suddenly remembering something, he whipped around, but the alley was empty. That other woman disappeared. She sure runs fast, he thought, and it seems this girl doesn't recognize the person in front of her. He turned back to Yumin, letting out a breath. I misunderstood you. I should apologize. Thank you for returning my wallet. I won't need it. That's enough, Yumin replied immediately, avoiding his gaze. Hyunju watched her for a moment, then smirked slightly. But I have to admit, you have a unique way of returning a wallet. Do you always throw it at people's heads? He spoke politely, but his eyes were clearly amused. Of course not. It's because you pissed me off. Yumin snapped back, pointing a finger straight at him, but as soon as the words left her mouth, she realized she was letting her emotions get the best of her. She quickly regained her composure and lowered her hand. Actually, I wanted to return the wallet quickly, so I guess that must have hurt. I'm sorry, she said, her eyes glistening. Hyunju looked at her, unimpressed, not seeing a hint of remorse. She's totally faking it, he thought, deciding to bolt before things got complicated. Yumin turned to leave. Hyunju frowned, looking at the dark alley. It's not right for her to go alone. Wait, I'll go with you. He called out. Back at the party, Ji-hee, Yumin's friend, was chatting with a guy, the one she had just met. Hey, I'm back, Yumin's voice called out. Then, Ji-hee turned to see Yumin standing there with a guy. Where did you go with him? I was trying to call you, Ji-hee asked worriedly. Sorry, I was just nearby. I was so thirsty. Let me grab a drink, and then I'll tell you all about it, Yumin replied hastily. The four of them looked at each other in surprise. It turned out the guy Ji-hee was talking to was also Hyunju's friend and his restaurant business partner. After greeting each other, the two girls went to get themselves drinks. When it was just the two of them, Ji-hee leaned in close, her eyes sparkling with curiosity. Who was that guy? Did something happen? She asked eagerly. I know what you're hoping for. But really, nothing happened at all, Yumin quickly replied, recalling what had just occurred. She thought to herself, well, of course things did happen, but Ji-hee's curiosity only grew. Oh, come on, just tell me, Yumin sighed. I just returned his wallet, that's it. Meanwhile, on the other side, Hyunju's friend was asking him the same thing, but before answering, Hyunju narrowed his eyes. First, tell me, did you post a picture of me on social media? His friend's face went pale. He had indeed posted a photo earlier, and Hyunju might have been accidentally caught in the frame. He hesitated, then confessed. Hyunju sighed in annoyance. Whatever, I'm leaving. His friend quickly suggested, the restaurant is closed for a few days for renovations. How about we have a few drinks with them? He gestured towards Yumin and Ji-hee. Hyunju glanced in their direction. Yumin was laughing and drinking happily. She seemed carefree, but he quickly looked away, his expression unreadable. I'm not interested, he muttered and turned towards the door, leaving those words behind. In the car, the person in the front seat glanced back. Sojung, how long are you going to wear that hat? Sojung blinked as if startled. Oh, I didn't even realize I was still wearing it. I was just lost in thought, she replied. She casually took off the hat, tossing the long wig aside to reveal her true appearance, short hair framing her face. Did the talk with Hyunju go well? The assistant asked. It was fine, but I think he needs time, Sojung answered. She was a famous star in the country, and she leaned back in her seat. He said the worst things to me, she confessed. The assistant asked hesitantly. Even after hearing things like that, you don't seem to care? Are you sure he really meant it? The corners of Sojung's lips curved into a confident smile. I can believe a lot of things, but there's one thing I know for sure. He will never leave me. And right now, I bet he's waiting for my call. The assistant glanced at her, thinking she was really confident about Hyunju. So, what were you thinking about just now? The assistant asked. Sojung's face suddenly turned serious. She was still bothered by the person who threw the wallet at Hyunju. It happened so fast it was dangerous. Or maybe, was it an anti-fan trying to harass me? No, she left in a hurry, afraid of being spotted. But before she left, I caught a glimpse of her. She wasn't targeting me, she was watching Hyunju. After a moment, she chuckled, waving her hand dismissively. Oh, it's nothing important, she said. Inside the house, Hyunju sat on the sofa, replaying the recent events in his mind. As soon as he got Sojung's call, he had rushed to find her without a second thought. He ran a hand through his hair, wiping his face. He let out a frustrated sigh, crushing the beer can in his hand. So pathetic. I can't believe I ran just because she called. I ran after her. A deep sense of shame settled in his chest as he stared at his phone. He told himself he wouldn't pick up so quickly next time. As he was cleaning up the mess from earlier, his phone vibrated again. Tossing a pack of tissues aside, he grabbed the phone immediately. It wasn't Sojung, it was Taegun. A message urged him to come back to the party, saying everyone was having a great time, along with a photo of a small group. Hyunju glanced at it casually, until his eyes landed on one face. He zoomed in on Yumin's face, the girl who threw the wallet at the back of his head. Yeah, real shy. She looks familiar. Leaning back on the sofa, he tried to remember where he had seen her. Did I see her at the restaurant? He wondered. But why does it matter? He dismissed the thought. I'll probably never see her again anyway. At least that's what he thought, completely unaware that fate was preparing a surprise for him. It wouldn't be long now, just next week. Everything would happen, somewhere else. Sojung scrolled through her phone, a slight smile on her lips. She clicked on a newly posted story, her eyes scanning the screen. I wonder how Hyunju is doing, she thought, then clicked to see his recent activity through a mutual friend's account. A moment later, she found a picture from the party, the only one she could find. Just as I thought, he really hates social media. Probably the usual, working out and then going to the restaurant, she murmured, finding no other updates about him. The sound of footsteps approached, followed by a voice calling, Sojung. She looked up to see a newcomer exuding a radiant energy. Hello, I look forward to working with you. The newcomer greeted her cheerfully. It was her new personal stylist. As she looked at Sojung happily, a thought crossed her mind. I can't believe I've become her stylist. Yumin will be so happy when I tell her. Meanwhile, Hyunju stared at the messages from Sojung. Did you move because of me? You must have been so busy. Moving and renovating the shop. So when are you going to tell me where you moved to? Today, Hyunju sighed and started typing a reply, telling her to come to his shop if she wanted to talk. But a moment later, he deleted it, deciding not to send it. It's over. Why bother replying when I was the one who ended it? Besides, he thought, she wouldn't dare come to my restaurant, afraid of being seen. She should know what it feels like to be ignored. He put his phone in his pocket and walked down the street, his eyes wandering. Just then, he spotted two adorable cats. He instinctively pulled out his phone to take a picture, but before he could, it buzzed with a call. It was Taegun. "I'm bringing some guests to the restaurant tonight," Taegun said over the phone. "Who?" Hyunju asked nonchalantly. "The girls we met at that party." Hyunju paused for a moment, then let out a soft sigh. During lunch, Jihee excitedly told Yumin about their plans for tonight. Yumin's smile faltered a little. She recalled her previous conversation with Taegun, remembering that Hyunju owned the restaurant. She wasn't interested in seeing him again. "I don't want to go," she said flatly. "Huh?" Jihee narrowed her eyes. "Something really did happen that night, didn't it?" "Otherwise, why are you avoiding him?" Yumin forced a smile. "It's not what you think," but then Jihee asked. "Or is it because you're still hung up on your ex?" The question stung more than Yumin expected. Without hesitation, she changed her mind. "Fine, I'll go." There was no way she was going to let anyone think that about her. That evening, Taegun greeted them with a beaming smile. "Thanks for having us," Jihee said gratefully. "Wow, the newly renovated shop is so beautiful." Meanwhile, Yumin and Hyunju stood there, silently trying to ignore one another. As Taegun and Jihee chatted away, Yumin hesitated before handing Hyunju a bottle of wine. "Congratulations on reopening," she said. Hyunju took it, politely replying, "Ah, thanks." While the men were preparing the food, the girls sat at a table by the window. "This place isn't too far from my office," Yumin thought, gazing outside. Her eyes scanned the street, and then a memory suddenly surfaced. Her ex-boyfriend used to live near here. There's no way he's out there. What would I even hope for if I saw him? She shook her head to clear the thought. A short while later, the table was full of food. Yumin took a bite and was pleasantly surprised. It was really good. Glancing to the side, she was secretly impressed. So he's actually a good cook, she thought, but her expression stiffened a bit. There's no rule saying skills and personality have to match. This is so good, I'm going to be a regular here. A while later, the plates were all empty. As they were finishing up, Taegun said he would post a picture of the gift on social media and tag them. Curious, Jihee turned to Hyunju. "You don't use social media?" "No, it's not for me," he replied. "Ugh," Jihee sighed. "I've been thinking about deleting my social media account lately too. My ex keeps contacting me saying he still likes me. It's so annoying," Taegun chimed in. "Hey, you can't do that. I haven't seen the photos yet. Just block all of them. I did that after we broke up." Yumin, who was lost in thought, blurted out. "Maybe some people like to lie about their feelings, not even being honest with themselves." Hyunju froze, her words striking a chord with him. If Yumin was right, then maybe Hyunju was just now understanding why Sojung was so insistent on getting him back. Even after breaking up, she couldn't be honest with herself. Will she ever be? He wondered. The mood suddenly grew heavy due to Hyunju's silent and emotionless expression. Yumin turned to Jihee. "How long after a breakup does an ex usually get in touch?" she asked curiously. Jihee shrugged. "Sometimes 3 days, sometimes 3 months, and sometimes never." Yumin was stunned by her answer. Jihee smirked, resting her chin on her hand. "But there's one sure way to make them call you fast. Show them you're happy with a new boyfriend." As dinner came to an end, Jihee and Yumin gave their thanks. They promised to bring more friends next time. "The taxi's here," Taegun called. Since Taegun and Jihee lived in the same direction, they shared it. Yumin's home was in the opposite direction, and Hyunju's was just a short walk away. Jihee hesitated. "Are you sure you'll be okay?" Yumin insisted. "Just go, I'll be fine." Jihee then said, "Hyunju, please look after her." "Okay," he replied with a nonchalant look as they left. Hyunju suggested they walk to the main street to get a cab. As they walked, only one thought occupied Yumin's mind. If he saw me happy with someone else, how would he feel? But since she left him, he had never once seemed angry. He probably wouldn't even care if she dated someone else. Then she heard voices from across the street and turned. She saw a man and a woman walking together, seemingly after a company party. Hyunju was focused on his phone, likely looking for a ride. But Yumin's eyes were instantly glued to the man. Her heart skipped a beat. As his facial features became clearer, her mouth fell open. She couldn't believe it, but it was unmistakably him. She had just run into her ex-boyfriend. 13 years ago, a group of girls were whispering excitedly about the new transfer student. Yumin and Jihee stood nearby, listening to the murmurs. All eyes were on the boy at the front of the classroom talking to the teacher. A flicker of curiosity sparked in Yumin as she licked her lollipop and stepped forward for a better view. But when he turned, her eyes grew wide. "Hey, he's looking over here," the girls whispered excitedly. That was the first time she saw him, standing there with a radiant smile. His name was Isun. In that moment, Yumin froze, the lollipop falling from her hand to the ground. Back in the present, Yumin stood completely still, stunned. What is he doing here? What do I do? I wanted to see him, but I'm not ready for this. Panic began to rise as she desperately looked around. Where can I hide? Her gaze fell on Hyunju, who was still nonchalantly glued to his phone. An idea sparked in her mind, but she hesitated. Should I really do this? But she had no other choice. She acted without warning, lunging forward, grabbing his jacket collar, and burying her face in his chest. Hyunju froze, looking down at her with a frown. What the hell is going on? But meanwhile, Isun and the girl with him continued walking. The girl giggled and pointed toward them. "Look, that couple is so cute," she said. Isun turned, his gaze falling on the two people in a tight embrace. "Oh yeah, they are cute," he said with a smile. "Let's not bother them," he added as they passed by. Hyunju, still stunned, finally came to his senses. "What are you doing?" "Get off," he growled, but Yumin just held on tighter. "Sorry, just give me 3 minutes," she whispered desperately. 3 minutes? Do you see how tightly you're holding on to me? Huh? He practically yelled. "I know, but please be quiet, or I'm going to puke." At that, Hyunju instantly went rigid. He was terrified she was actually going to throw up on him. Meanwhile, the girl beside Isun asked, "Isun, do you have a girlfriend?" Yumin reflexively glanced in their direction, as if she was also waiting for the answer. "A girlfriend? Yeah, I do," Isun answered casually. Yumin flinched when Isun and the girl were finally out of sight. Her face was still buried in Hyunju's chest. As for him, he stood frozen like a statue. After a long moment, Hyunju finally breathed out. "Are you done? Let me go now." Yumin slowly released his jacket, mumbling, "We dated for almost 6 years. Hyunju glanced down at her. A bad feeling crept up his spine. "But it's only been 3 months. How could he have someone new already?" she whispered. Her voice trembled before she suddenly broke down into uncontrollable sobs. Hyunju sighed and rubbed his forehead. "This is unbelievable," he muttered. Later, they sat on a bench in a nearby park, Yumin finishing a can of water, her face red from crying. "I know I said some terrible things, but how could he forget our 6 years together so fast?" "You," she choked out. Hyunju sat next to her, looking up at the sky and praying silently. "Please let me go home." After a while, Hyunju turned to her. "So you did all that because you saw your ex?" he asked. Yumin sighed. "Yeah, I had nowhere to hide, so I just used you as a shield." Hyunju's brow furrowed slightly. "But why hide? It's not like you did anything wrong." His words startled her. "Yeah, why did I hide?" she asked herself. She thought about how she used to want to bump into him, but now she realized she didn't want him to see her true state. Yumin didn't realize it, but her subconscious had simply made the instinctive choice to hide. If they had met, her lingering feelings for Isun would have been exposed. "You should have greeted him instead of hiding. Maybe he would have thought you moved on too," Hyunju suggested, and an idea sparked in her mind. "You're right, how could I forget I was walking with such a handsome guy?" "Cut it out," Hyunju said as he stood up. He started walking ahead, and she followed behind, stumbling slightly. She glanced at him. "I'm still not sure if he's kind or just cold. He was so harsh with that other girl, yet today he went along with me and even helped me." She couldn't figure out what kind of man he was, she thought as she suddenly stopped walking. An idea suddenly sparked in her mind. She could create another situation to bump into him again by chance. All she needed was a man who would stand by her when it happened, without overthinking it. Yumin called out, "Hey, are you seeing anyone?" Hyunju stopped but didn't turn around. "If not, I'll buy you dinner. Can we meet up occasionally? I'm not trying to hit on you, you just have to pretend to be my boyfriend." Hyunju turned slightly, frowning as if he had misheard. Then without a word, he turned back and kept walking. Yumin sighed. She had no interest in dating. She really just needed a pretend boyfriend. And this man was the perfect candidate, because based on his behavior, she knew he would never fall for her. Feeling dizzy, she dropped to the ground, burying her face in her knees. Hyunju turned back to look at her. He waited for a moment before speaking. "Get up or get home on your own," he said before turning and walking towards the door. She stayed curled up, motionless. A few minutes later, Hyunju suddenly returned and stood before her. "What do I get out of it?" he asked. Yumin looked up, startled. "What can you do for me?" he asked again, his tone more serious. She hesitated. "Do you need money?" she asked while getting up. No, that's not it." Hyunju looked up, staring intently at a large banner in the distance. His ex-girlfriend's face stared down from it. No. Looking at Yumin, he replied with a smirk. "I want to use you a bit too. It'll be mutually beneficial." 5 years ago, Hyunju lived with Sojung, taking care of everything, cleaning the house, and cooking delicious meals. He did everything he could for her. He loved her deeply and wholeheartedly, while she just nonchalantly enjoyed his love. Currently, Yumin was in her office, completely exhausted, rubbing her temples. While still suffering from a headache from the soju bombs last night, Jihee turned to her in surprise. "Are you sure you're not mistaken? The 4 of us just had drinks yesterday. We didn't mix them with soju," Yumin blurted out, but she didn't want to tell Jihee the truth, because she was very expressive with her emotions, and just as she was wondering how to answer, 2 employees interrupted, breaking the awkward silence. Her phone vibrated. It was a text from Hyunju. "Let's meet for a bit when you're free." 30 minutes later, Yumin arrived at the cafe, hoping to clear up the mess she had made while she was drunk. She scanned the room until she spotted Hyunju sitting by himself in the corner. He was shaking his leg and fidgeting, looking anxious and tense. "Oh, Hyunju," she said as she walked over. "Have you been waiting long?" she asked. "No," he replied, jumping up. "I'll get us drinks." He walked off before she could even answer. A few minutes later, they sat facing each other. Yumin decided to break the ice. "I was drunk yesterday. I must have been a pain. Did you get home all right?" After her nonsensical rambling, she hadn't even noticed Hyunju calling a cab for her. She sighed. "I'm really sorry for my behavior. Please forget everything I said." Hyunju put his cup down and finally looked directly at her. "Hey, why don't we give it a shot?" he suddenly said, referring to her proposal. "I just have to pretend, right?" Yumin blinked, stunned. "Wait, for real? Are you sure?" I thought you were just humoring me because I was drunk, she asked hesitantly. I told you I'd be using you too. For IU Nam, Yumin quickly clarified. Since we've agreed, let's work out the details, Yumin added. The plan was simple, but she just wanted to prove something to herself, that she could also be happy with another man. Since her house was near Hyunju's restaurant, they only had to meet once a week. Having lunch, strolling around the city, visiting cafes, it wasn't love, just an escape from reality. But she still couldn't accept that her ex-boyfriend had never loved her as a woman, even though she was the one who ended it. She wanted him to regret losing her, and as for Hyunju, he couldn't care less about her reasons. All right, my turn, he said. Every time we meet, I'll take a picture and post it online. If you don't want me to, I won't show your face. Yumin raised an eyebrow. Oh, that's it? Yeah, that's enough, Hyunju replied casually. His only goal was for Sojung to see the photos. He wanted her to see him with another person, to make her realize she wasn't the only one. But as Yumin watched him, she thought, so he just wants to show off to another girl online. But for who? The woman from the alley that day? The thought lingered in her mind as she glanced at him. If that's true, then he's just like me. What is his story, anyway? Hyunju broke the silence. I'm free on Sundays, otherwise just in the evenings. How long are we doing this for? Yumin thought for a moment. How long? Until we both achieve our goals? No, let's just say 2 months. 2 months, Yumin said. Sounds good. Hyunju agreed, and as they were leaving the cafe, Yumin turned to him. Well, see you next Sunday. Hyunju nodded, and as he was about to walk away, Yumin suddenly called him back, raising her hand. Thank you for agreeing to my ridiculous idea, she said with a radiant smile. For the first time, Hyunju noticed her beautiful smile. He smirked, thinking he had to let Sojung know about this girl soon. With the deal sealed, Hyunju went back to the restaurant and approached Taegun. Taegun, who was casually chatting with Jihee, jumped in surprise at his sudden appearance. What are you doing here? What are you doing yelling like that? Hyunju asked while taking off his jacket. We're reopening soon, so I came to clean up, Taegun replied. A few minutes later, he glanced at Hyunju and finally voiced what was on his mind. Hyunju, I've been wanting to ask, are you dating someone? Hyunju raised an eyebrow but didn't say anything, simply walking away without a word. Sometimes you even close the shop unexpectedly, Taegun continued, listing all the things he had noticed. And you're always stepping out to take phone calls. Right then, Taegun's phone buzzed, and he assumed it was Jihee. He quickly checked it but froze. It was a friend request from Hyunju. Taegun's eyes widened in disbelief. He excitedly grabbed Hyunju's hands. Since when are you on social media? Is it because of the girl you're seeing? He asked with a wide grin. Hyunju pulled his hand away. Get away from me, he muttered coldly. Later that night, Hyunju returned home. Exhausted by Taegun's endless questions, he slumped onto the sofa, secretly glad he'd never told him about his past with Sojung. He turned on the TV, and ironically, a drama series starring Sojung was playing. It was the face he had tried so hard to forget. He tightened his grip on the remote when suddenly, his phone buzzed. He looked down. It was a message from Yumin. Tomorrow's Sunday, let's meet. No reason to say no. So he started typing a reply. But then Sojung's voice came from the TV. You love me, right? I both love you and hate you. I'm doing all this because of these mixed feelings. Elsewhere, Yumin was also watching Sojung's show. She muttered, the plot is a little strange, but her acting is incredible. Then she glanced at her phone, wondering why he hadn't replied yet. Did he fall asleep already? Just then, 2 messages came through. Okay, Yumin wondered, but what should I wear? It's not like it's a real date. I should just choose something simple. The next day, Yumin was waiting at the meeting spot, but Hyunju was late. But she decided to wait a bit longer before calling him. Suddenly, a voice from behind made her jump. Hey, Choi Yumin! She spun around and saw Hyunju standing there. They began walking towards the cafe-lined street she had suggested. As they got closer, Hyunju slowed down, his gaze fixed straight ahead as if recalling a memory. An image of Sojung flashed in his mind. His head throbbed. Get out, her voice echoed in his head. A dull ache spread across his chest, and his expression darkened. Yumin noticed the shift in his mood, but she chose not to pry. After a moment, Yumin commented, this street with all the cafes is a pretty common date spot. If he also brings his dates here, there's a high chance we'll see him. Hyunju replied coldly, what if they go elsewhere? So we might not accomplish anything today, she mused. Even so, if we keep this up for 2 months, we're bound to see him at least once. On the way, the streets were filled with couples being affectionate, holding hands and laughing. The sight made Yumin feel uneasy. She used to be just like them, walking down this street with Isun. That was real, she thought bitterly. She remembered how happy and joyful it was, while this is all just an act. Lost in thought, she stumbled and almost fell forward. Hyunju instinctively reacted, reaching out to cup her face to stop the fall. The street fell silent for a moment. Everyone around stared with unfriendly looks at their awkward posture. Just fall already, someone commented, making Yumin blush with embarrassment. Hyunju sighed, feeling terrible about the situation as they finally arrived at the cafe. Yumin excused herself to the restroom. Hyunju, still feeling guilty, blurted out, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to grab your face like that. It's okay, you were just trying to help. Don't worry about it, Yumin reassured him, but how could she not? Trying to stop her from falling was like slapping her in the face. The handprint was still visible on her cheek. Meanwhile, somewhere else in the city, Isun was cleaning his house when his phone rang. It was his sister, Hakyung. Aren't you coming home, she asked. He didn't answer right away, waiting for her to continue. You know, Dad still says he won't let you come back unless you bring Yumin with you, she added hesitantly. Hearing that, the familiar smile vanished from Isun's face. I'll meet you out there later, Hakyung, he replied, his gaze lingering on a family photo, where Yumin's face was still present. Back at the cafe, Yumin fixed her makeup, telling herself to just let it go. Don't get mad at the person who helped you. Just let it go. Then she suddenly thought of her ex. Wait a minute. Isun couldn't have been in that crowd, right? I must have looked awful. She turned to look outside. She noticed Hyunju looked the same as always and had chosen a secluded spot away from the window. Maybe he doesn't like crowded places, she thought as she sat down. After they ordered, Hyunju glanced at her. Is your face okay? Does it hurt? He asked. It's fine, there's no mark left, right? Yumin replied with a slight smile. She wanted to follow him on social media. She asked for his username, but when she looked it up, something seemed off. He didn't even have a profile picture. You should at least have one, she suggested. I don't have any, he replied nonchalantly. Yumin took out her phone. Then let me take a picture for you. But before she could, Hyunju covered his face with his hand. I don't like having my picture taken. Besides, my ex would recognize me even without a picture. Yumin blinked. Oh, okay then. She put her phone away as their food arrived. Hyunju took out his phone. Hold on, let me take a picture of the food and get you in the frame. Okay, he turned the screen towards her. Can I post this? Yumin glanced at it. Yeah, that's fine as long as my face isn't visible. It looked just like a date. Even though it was fake, Hyunju thoughtfully offered food to Yumin. A short silence fell over them. As they ate in silence, both looked awkward in this situation until Yumin suddenly spoke up. Hyunju, look at me and say something. Hyunju frowned. What? Why? She gestured around the cafe. Look at the other tables. Our table is so dull and quiet. Look at me, I don't look like a woman happily dating her new boyfriend at all. Hyunju glanced at her. You look plenty energetic to me. Yumin leaned forward. Now say something and I'll act happy. Why is she trying so hard? Hyunju thought and sighed. He finally spoke. Didn't you say yesterday you wanted your ex to see you happy with me? Yumin burst into laughter, trying to look overly cheerful. I'm putting on a one-woman show. I look pathetic, don't I? Haha, so what do you want him to do? Dump his new girlfriend to come back to you? Hyunju asked bluntly. Yumin's forced smile faltered for a moment before she nodded. Actually, yes, that's exactly what I want. And if not, at least I want him to realize how he feels, and regret his decision. She was being honest with her feelings, unlike the person he once knew. Yumin tilted her head. Isn't that what you want from your ex too? Why wasn't Hyunju answering? Instead, he asked, what if you don't hear anything from him for the next 2 months? And what if he sees you with someone else and still doesn't call back? Yumin froze, falling silent. Hyunju sighed. That's why you shouldn't force our plan too much. It doesn't depend on our efforts, but on theirs. After eating, they went their separate ways. Hyunju took public transport home, staring out the window. Although Yumin didn't react much outwardly, he realized something. He hadn't been annoyed with her earlier, but with how she clung to a fantasy. It reminded him too much of himself, as if he were seeing his own reflection in her. When he got back to his complex, he saw someone squatting on the ground playing with a cat. That person turned around. Hyunju didn't know it was Yumin's ex-boyfriend. Without hesitation, he walked up and stopped in front of him. Isun looked up and smiled at him. You're on the 5th floor, right? Hyunju kept a straight face. Yeah, you live here too? Yeah, I'm on the 4th floor. I saw you about a month ago on the day you moved in. Isun smiled, remembering that day. When his sister was arguing with him, demanding to know why he left Yumin, but he had remained silent. He didn't tell anyone what truly happened that day. As he was leaving the building, he heard a noise and turned to look. That was the first time he saw Hyunju carrying boxes into the hallway, moving into his apartment. Now standing before him, Isun smiled. I didn't get a chance to meet you that day, so I can finally greet you properly. Hyunju nodded a bit awkwardly. Ah yes, nice to meet you. They talked for a bit and surprisingly, they bonded over their shared love for cats. Hyunju stood there for a moment, suddenly feeling strangely grateful for moving into a neighborhood with so many stray cats. How strange. They said their goodbyes. It was nice meeting you today, let's see each other around. Okay, bye. Hyunju was happy to have a friendly neighbor, especially one who also liked cats. For someone who moved in a rush, this was nice. I'm sensing some BL vibes here, 2 young men who love cats. It's an easy setup, but that's the opposite of the truth, folks. At home, Yumin stared at her phone, unable to believe her eyes. Is this for real? Hyunju had just posted a picture, his first post ever. Though her face wasn't clear, it was obviously her. She frowned. This morning he said I was trying too hard and now he's being super active on social media, but she couldn't blame him. She knew this plan would probably fail, but now that it had started, she wanted to see it through. Meanwhile, Taegun was scrolling his feed when he saw Hyunju's post and his jaw nearly hit the floor. I've lived long enough to see Grandpa Hyunju on a date. Even though I suspected he was dating, I never expected this. Taegun was also dating Jihee. They had a fun time together and now he was taking her home. The next day, Yumin left the office after a meeting. As she walked, she heard a noisy crowd nearby whispering amongst themselves. A film crew was shooting nearby with Sojung and Hakyung. Yumin excitedly headed towards the set. She looked towards the crowd and froze in surprise. Sojung was there. Her eyes lit up with excitement. She was a huge fan of Sojung and stood there watching, completely mesmerized. Suddenly, a familiar voice called out, "Hey, Yumin, is that you?" Yumin turned to see Hakyung. "What are you doing here? Here to watch the filming?" Yumin asked, surprised. Hakyung grinned. "You'll be shocked when you find out why I'm here. Follow me." She grabbed Yumin's hand and pulled her away. From a distance, Sojung noticed them and narrowed her eyes. "Where is Hakyung going?" she asked. "I told her to get something from the car," an assistant replied. Sojung paused for a moment, then spoke. "Tell her to come back quickly. I need to ask her something." Her gaze followed their disappearing figures. "You're Hong Sojung's stylist? Congratulations, I'm so happy for you," Yumin exclaimed. "I'll treat you to a meal later. As for an autograph, I can't get one yet, we're not that close." Hakyung smiled gently. "It's okay, Hakyung, I'm so proud of you," Yumin reassured her softly. "Wow, you sound just like Isun," Hakyung blurted out, then quickly realized her slip. Yumin's expression didn't change. "It's okay, Isun must be very proud of you too," she said with a smile hiding her feelings. "I have to go now," Hakyung said quickly and left. Yumin stood there for a long moment in silence after hearing Isun's name. A while later, Hakyung returned to the set. "You called for me?" she asked. "Ah, yes, I was just looking for you," Sojung replied politely. She tilted her head slightly. "I saw you with someone earlier. I thought you'd be gone longer, but you're back so soon." Hakyung nodded. "Oh, you saw that? Sorry, it was a friend I haven't seen in a while." "So we only talked for a moment," she said, bowing her head slightly. "I'm sorry." Sojung's eyes sharpened. "You two seemed close." "Yes, we've known each other since we were kids, but we lost touch for a while, so that's why I was so happy to see her today." Hakyung explained, a hint of sadness in her voice. Before Hakyung could say more, her manager called her back to work. After Hakyung left, Sojung sat in silence. She took out her phone, opened Hyunju's profile, and scrolled through the list of people he was following. Her eyes immediately landed on one name, Yumin. Unsurprisingly, Yumin's name was at the top of the list. She clicked on Yumin's profile. She saw the exact same dish that Hyunju had posted earlier. Sojung smirked, so it was because of her. Suddenly creating a social media account, does he want me to see this woman? Her finger hovered over the screen. A look of amusement flashed in her eyes. And this woman just happens to be Hakyung's friend too. What a lovely coincidence. That evening, Taegun approached Hyunju with a scrutinizing gaze. "Hey Hyunju, isn't there something you want to tell me?" he asked. "There's nothing to say," Hyunju replied calmly. "Oh, actually there is one thing." He suddenly remembered. "Thanks for all your hard work on the reopening." "Hey, don't change the subject," Taegun yelled. "Is the girl in the picture you posted your girlfriend?" "It's none of your business," Hyunju answered bluntly. Taegun frowned. "Hyunju, I know you're a private person, but we've known each other for so many years. At least I deserve to know." Hyunju turned away. "It's not important enough to tell anyone." He let go before walking away, leaving Taegun standing there. But as he left, Hyunju thought, how could I possibly tell him that I faked a girlfriend to get back with the famous ex-girlfriend I loved for 6 years, whom I let go of just on an impulse? Just thinking about it made him shudder. It's better to let them think I'm a jerk than to expose that pathetic side of me. Just then his phone rang. It was Yumin. "Yeah, Yumin. What's up?" he asked, rubbing his forehead. "Hey, are you free after work in 2 days?" she asked. Yeah, okay, I'll be there. I can't really say no at this point." "Then I'll send you the address of the pub my ex-boyfriend often goes to. See you in 2 days." 2 days later, Hyunju arrived at the pub. Yumin had chosen the exact place her ex-boyfriend frequented. Seeing him, Yumin waved happily. Hey, Hyunju over here. I've already saved us a spot and ordered drinks." She winked playfully, full of excitement. Hyunju frowned. What's with her today? As he sat down, Yumin beamed brightly. "Try this. It's delicious. Not as good as your cooking, of course," she said, still smiling from ear to ear. Hyunju looked at her, his frown deepening. What is wrong with her today? "Hey Hyunju, why don't you stop frowning? A man trying to flirt with a woman shouldn't look so grim," she teased. "No, is your ex-boyfriend nearby?" he asked directly. "No, but it's better to be prepared," she replied nonchalantly. Hyunju sighed. "Then just act happy by yourself like last time. Don't expect anything from me." "No, I need you to cooperate a little." "Hyunju," she insisted. Hyunju turned to her questioning. "That wasn't part of the deal, was it? You just said I needed to spend time with you, but that doesn't mean you should sit there like a corpse." Yumin retorted, pouring herself another drink. "If you at least pretend I'll take care of the rest, I can play the happy part." Hyunju narrowed his eyes. "Are you sure you can fool everyone?" "You're not an actress," Yumin smirked. "It's not that hard." She took a sip of her drink, her confidence unwavering. "No, I just have to pretend to be in love with you. I know I'm not an actress, but I can do it." Hyunju watched her quietly. Meanwhile, Yumin was panicking on the inside. Her hands clenched. "I must be crazy. What did I just say? I can't believe I let him provoke me, but now that I've said it, I have to follow through. I have to show him my acting skills." Her eyes darted to Hyunju, who was still calmly sipping his drink, no matter what he thought. "I have to show him I'm serious about this plan." A momentous decision had been made. Alright, from now on Yumin will be in love with that person. When Yumin went to the restroom, Hyunju's gaze swept across the pub. She was right, people in love really do look happy. But then a thought crossed his mind. But no one has ever said I look happy. He chuckled softly to himself. But that's to be expected. Besides that, one person nobody knows. Because I always hit it. He took another sip, pushing the thought away. Yumin suddenly returned to the table. She asked, startling Hyunju. "What are you thinking about? Why do you look so serious?" "It's nothing. You don't have to act. Show me then." "What acting?" Yumin pressed. He insisted. "I told you that you don't need to pretend. That you're happy as if you're in love." Yumin acted innocent, laughing loudly. Ha, Hyunju, what are you talking about? This is so weird." He found Yumin's expressions confusing. She was suddenly acting clueless. Her way of speaking was also relaxed and natural, completely different from before. Could it be that she's starting to act now? Ignoring his discomfort, she said excitedly, "Ah, Hyunju, look, that singer has a great voice. She's about to sing." Hyunju took out his phone, then took a picture of the food and the scenery as proof of their meeting today. Just then, a notification popped up. He opened it curiously. It was another scandal involving Sojung and another star. Hyunju's finger paused on the screen. Oh, so she knows about my social media account now. This is her way of reacting. Before he could think further, Yumin leaned over to peek at his phone. "Oh, it's Sojung," she exclaimed with interest. Hyunju flinched and pulled away. "Hey, are you a fan of hers?" she asked, her eyes sparkling. No, I can't stand her," he said, shaking his head vigorously. Yumin smirked. "Then who do you like me?" She teased, still in her role as the cheerful girlfriend. Hyunju was taken aback. Yumin burst out laughing. "I'm just kidding." Realizing she had gone a bit too far, she quickly calmed down. "You've shown me, Yujin, you've acted enough so you can stop now." "Okay," Yumin replied sadly. "But there's something I don't know why you always call me by the wrong name." Hyunju quietly observed her attitude. "I'm just not good at remembering names." Yumin snapped her fingers, her cheerful, carefree attitude returning. It's because you'd be too shy to call me by my real name, right?" Hyunju was speechless, then stood up in frustration. "What the heck?" And so Yumin continued to tease him, gradually breaking down the icy wall between them, letting him know it was okay to use her name. "This woman is really something else." He turned to her. "Are you satisfied? Now stop that over-the-top acting." She gave a gentle smile. "If you think my acting is good, then you should cooperate a little." Hyunju looked at her for a few seconds. Her determination was something else. He grew more curious. That's why Hyunju's mood was wavering. "So I just need to act close on the outside and react happily." "Right, yes," Yumin replied. "That's right, that's all I need. Oh, and one more thing. If you say something nasty to me again, I won't let it slide." Hyunju raised an eyebrow. "Huh, what are you going to do?" Yumin leaned in closer and whispered, "I'll start hitting on you for real." Hyunju's eyes widened. "I'll text you, call you every day, and visit your restaurant all the time," she said with a smirk. "Isn't that stalking?" Hyunju muttered, frowning. Yumin smiled brightly. "I can also flirt with you publicly like I did just now." Hyunju tensed up. "Hey, stop it. Just hearing it makes my hair stand on end." Yumin leaned back, looking satisfied. "So you'd better behave. Otherwise, you'll find it very annoying." For a moment, Hyunju just looked at her in silence, then he suddenly burst out laughing. A deep, genuine laugh. Yumin blinked in surprise. It was the first time she had ever seen him laugh, and it was a beautiful smile from someone who was always frowning. She snapped out of it and asked decisively, "So are you ready to cooperate?" Hyunju smirked, raising his glass in a toast. "I'll give it a try." Finally, the meeting ended, and they didn't even run into Yumin's ex-boyfriend. Afterwards, Hyunju called a taxi for her and said his place was nearby, so he would walk. Suddenly, Yumin pointed to the mole on his ear and another one near his eye. She laughed and teased that she was jealous because he had two charming moles. When the taxi arrived, she left, leaving Hyunju standing there in silence, frowning. His hand lightly touched his ear. "Charming moles, what the heck is that?" To him, that comment was ridiculous. Later, while washing his face, his eyes landed on the marks that Yumin had mentioned. A memory from 4 years ago came flooding back when Sojung had joked that the moles on his ear and near his eye were perfect for piercings. She had asked, "Do you want me to do it for you?" He had agreed if that was what she wanted, but she just laughed and said, "Just kidding," then advised him to keep his hair long to soften the sharp, cold lines of his face. She didn't want people around him to be afraid of him. Since then, Hyunju had taken her words to heart and continued to hide his appearance from everyone. The next day, Yumin, Jihi, and their colleagues went to Hyunju's restaurant for dinner. Yumin hadn't been there in a while, so everyone was greeting each other. Hyunju was still in the kitchen, focused on his work. Suddenly, he turned around when he heard a familiar voice. Taegun cheerfully led them to a table, telling them to come more often, and he would even give them a family discount. Yumin sat next to Jihi, who immediately noticed the interaction between her and Taegun, feeling their relationship might be moving beyond friendship. The other colleagues noticed and started teasing Jihi, then turned to Yumin asking, "Is that chef over there Yumin's boyfriend?" Yumin quickly denied it, not wanting to reveal anything more. Hyunju wasn't a gossip either, so she felt at ease. Jihi teased that Yumin and Hyunju would make a cute couple, but Yumin was still adamant that neither Hyunju's personality nor his looks were her type. Jihi added that you don't necessarily have to be someone's type to be compatible. Besides, they looked pretty in sync. For Yumin, the only thing she saw in common between them was their failed relationships. Wanting Jihi to believe her, she jokingly declared, "If Hyunju asks me out first, I'll consider it." But as soon as the words left her mouth, her face went pale because Hyunju brought out their food right then. Everyone greeted him at once. Yumin was flustered, worried if he had overheard. She tried to signal with her hands that she was just joking. Hyunju noticed her awkward gestures but just smiled, amused by her efforts. He then wished them a good meal before turning away. Yumin frowned, wondering if her signals weren't clear enough, but his nonchalant attitude confused her. His demeanor showed he no longer felt awkward around her in the kitchen. Hyunju recalled what Yumin had said. "If he hits on me first, I'll think about it." He knew she was just putting on a show for her friends. Yeah, right. It seems even if it's an act, she's the one who made the first move. Suddenly, his phone vibrated. He reached into his back pocket for it, glanced out, and saw Yumin was also holding her phone. His first thought was that she was probably texting an explanation, but when he read the message, he froze. It wasn't from Yumin, but from his ex-girlfriend, saying she had been hospitalized for fainting, and she asked him to come to her house. Wait, what? If you're hospitalized for fainting, you're in the hospital. So why text, can you come to my house? Seriously, is this a thing girls do when they want to get back together, pretending to be sick to get their ex to come over? The food was all served for the ladies. Taegun returned to check on them, saying, enjoy your meal, let me know if you need anything. Yumin got a text from Isun's younger sister, whom she'd met before, inviting her to dinner to celebrate a new job. It was a chance for Yumin to see how he was doing and casually mention that she had started dating someone new. Lost in thought, a loud bang made her look up with a start. She saw Hyunju telling Taegun to watch the restaurant as he hastily rushed outside. Taegun quickly asked what was wrong, but Hyunju just told him to look after the restaurant and left, the door slamming shut. All the customers were surprised and began to whisper. Yumin watched him leave, and the scene reminded her of the first day she met Hyunju. It was the same that day. He had rushed out, leaving a tilted chair behind. A question suddenly popped into her head. Is he going to see his ex? Meanwhile, Hyunju had arrived at his ex's home. The first thing he did was smooth his hair, as if to hide his sharp gaze. A moment later, her assistant came out and led him to Sojung. He couldn't hide his concern, repeatedly asking the manager about Sojung's condition. The manager, whose ears were about to bleed from his rapid-fire questions, quickly reassured him, it's not too serious, so don't worry. Just walk and talk with me. He followed the manager into a high-end apartment building and they went upstairs. The manager explained that she had fainted from overworking on multiple projects at the same time. Although it wasn't dangerous, the doctor told her to get some rest. He fell into a thoughtful silence. Then he blurted out, is Sojung resting or what? The manager replied, she's probably sleeping. She's tired. He walked into the apartment and saw Sojung's room. He went to open the door, knelt by the bed, and Sojung softly called his name. Sensing his presence, he reassured her, it's me. She turned to face him. She asked if he only came because she was sick. This was the first time they had seen each other since their fight. Then, she suddenly asked if he missed her. Hyunju was silent for a moment before asking back, did you miss me? Sojung replied that she had been angry, but she waited patiently, believing he would always come back. Her answer stung him. Hyunju stood up and told her to rest for now, and that they would talk later. With that, he left the room. Outside, he asked the assistant if he could use the kitchen to cook something. The assistant suggested he wait and eat with Sojung when she woke up, but Hyunju reminded her that they had broken up, so it wasn't necessary. The assistant sighed, thinking to herself that him coming here to cook wasn't necessary in the first place either. And yet he still came for her. Both of them say one thing and do another. A few hours later, Sojung woke up and realized Hyunju had already left. She blamed the assistant for letting him go, saying it took a lot of effort to get him there. Then, the assistant repeated what Hyunju had said, that he insisted they were broken up. He had prepared several delicious meals, neatly portioned into containers for her. Sojung pouted. If he was just going to leave, why did he bother cooking, that idiot Hyunju? The two assistants teased her. Maybe he just feels sorry for his ex and can't accept the breakup. Sojung smiled. She insisted they were just having a cold war, but the assistant advised her to either break it off for good or make up properly. Sojung thought for a moment, then insisted they had to go to Hyunju's place since she didn't know his new address. They guessed he was probably at the restaurant drinking alone, so they decided to go there. Meanwhile, Yumin and her colleagues finished up and headed home. Yumin stopped and dialed Hyunju's number, but she couldn't get through. Being unable to reach him was frustrating, and moreover, she recalled how they had a huge fight the last time he saw his ex. She hesitated. Knowing he probably wouldn't appreciate her interfering, she finally decided to swing by his restaurant before going home, even if he ended up hating her for it. When she arrived, she realized the lights were still on, which was odd since it was well past closing time. She looked inside, and her eyes widened in shock. Hyunju was slumped over a table as if he'd passed out. She hurried inside, calling his name and patting his back to rouse him. He didn't respond, but she quickly realized he was just really drunk. There were empty bottles all around. She breathed a sigh of relief that at least nothing worse had happened. Yumin sank to the floor for a moment to catch her breath. However, she knew she couldn't just leave him like that. She decided to call Taegun for help getting Hyunju home, though she wasn't even sure she had his number saved. Meanwhile, Hyunju, who had been lying still, blinked his eyes open, his gaze slowly sliding over to Yumin. Just as she was fumbling to contact Taegun, a large hand suddenly grabbed her hat. It startled her, and she looked up in confusion. She saw the hand toss her hat aside, and then cover her eyes. It was Hyunju, now sitting up as if he wasn't drunk at all. His sharp eyes locked on Yumin. Yumin cried out in alarm, asking what he was doing, but Hyunju acted as if he didn't hear her and asked back, "Is your fever gone?" Instead of answering, Yumin pushed him away and asked if he was drunk, and furthermore, if he'd been awake this whole time. Hyunju still seemed out of it, just blinking at her. Yumin silently cursed herself for coming all this way to worry about a guy who was just drunk. But Hyunju's gaze remained fixed on her. He reached out, took her hand, squeezed it gently, and mumbled that he missed her. Flustered, Yumin asked why he was saying that, but Hyunju just repeated, "I miss you, and that's why I didn't want to see you." Yumin quickly realized those words weren't meant for her, but for his ex-girlfriend. She wondered what could have happened to make him drink this much. Did something go wrong? To her, he was acting exactly like someone who'd been dumped, even though he was the one who left. If so, then what he said in the alley probably weren't what he really felt. They were just words meant to hurt someone else. That must be it. That's why he's doing something so foolish. She warned him, "Hyunju, don't say anything else to me, or you'll regret it later." Hyunju asked back, "You don't want to hear me out?" But Yumin was firm, refusing to listen to a drunk man's confession. He gave a lazy nod, agreeing to her request, which made Yumin wonder if he was always this compliant when drunk. Realizing he was still holding her hand tightly, she told him to let go. But a second later, he shook his head, flatly refusing. It was then that Yumin was certain she had been completely wrong about him being compliant. She smiled and told him, "Take a good look at me," reminding him that she was Yumin, not his ex. He looked at her and asked, "You're Choi Yumin?" The weird one. A drunk man speaks the truth with no filter. She reminds him she's not a weirdo, but Hyunju retorts that she threw a wallet at his face and begged him to fake date her, so of course she is. Yumin pauses, realizing that throwing the wallet was indeed reckless, so she sincerely apologizes to him. Hyunju mumbles something. Yumin looks up at him and asks, "What did you just say?" and then sees him smile. He says he's glad she threw the wallet at him that day. Yumin asks confused, "Why are you glad? Shouldn't you be angry?" Hyunju looks down, remembering that on that day, the words he said were only focused on hurting her. But in the end, Sojung's pain also became his pain. He was trying to hurt himself. But in the end, Sojung's pain also became his pain. He was trying to hurt himself. So he was truly glad for her interruption. That day, he praised her for her perfect throw. She tries to shake him awake, but he's sleeping peacefully. She tries to pull her hand from his, but he won't let go. Finally, she decides to call Taegun. She explains everything and asks him to come pick Hyunju up. She also decides to stay with him until Taegun arrives, feeling it's only fair. Because he once listened to her drunken ramblings. She sits there quietly with him, completely unaware that outside the door, in a car, someone is watching them. It's Hyunju's ex-girlfriend. She had come to talk to him, but then she saw him with the girl and didn't dare to go in that day. She left quietly, without a word. Her assistant then mumbles, "There's no one pitiful in this story. The most pitiful one has to be me." Her assistant mumbles that there is no one pitiful in this story. The most pitiful one has to be me. It's so late and she still can't get off work. The assistant is quite the comedian. The next morning, Hyunju wakes up in his bed, hair all messy. He's baffled as to how he even got home. He remembers drinking at the restaurant and regrets going to his ex's house and even cooking for her the moment he got her text. Other than that, he remembers nothing, not even if he locked the restaurant door. He takes out his phone to check the restaurant security camera. On the screen, he sees himself wasted and then Yumin arriving at the restaurant. He's glued to the footage, wondering what she was doing there at that hour, pouring him water. His own glass overflows because he's not paying attention. His eyes are glued to the screen, widening as he sees what he did last night. Elsewhere, Yumin meets Hakyoung, her ex-boyfriend's younger sister, as they had planned. They've been best friends for a long time, and now Hakyoung is working for Sojung Hyunju's ex-girlfriend. The two are delighted to see each other, exchanging the usual pleasantries. Hakyoung asks her how she's been lately, though she knows it's a bit awkward to ask, but before she can answer, Yumin's phone rings. It's Hyunju. Hakyoung urges her to answer the phone. At first, she feels it's inappropriate, but after a moment's thought, Yumin thinks answering now could indirectly let her ex know, so she picks up. Hyunju immediately asks about what happened last night. Meanwhile, Hakyoung overhears a man's voice on the phone, curiously wondering if Yumin already has a new boyfriend. 8 years ago, a 17-year-old Hakyoung rushed to the hospital after hearing her father had collapsed, panting with tears streaming down her face. She meets her brother, who patted her head and comforted her that everything was okay now. Behind him was a woman who also looked like she had cried a lot, who patted her head and comforted her that everything was okay now. Behind him was a woman who also looked like she had cried a lot. The very same person who saved their father that day. In the present, Taegun informs Hyunju that he was the one who brought him home last night. Hyunju, still confused, asks how he knew, and Taegun explains that Yumin called him. When Taegun arrived, Hyunju was fast asleep. "She handed you over to me and I piggybacked you home." His head throbbing from the hangover and the new information, Hyunju listens as Taegun expresses some suspicion. Yumin said she found Hyunju passed out on her way home, but that street isn't on her route, which is weird. Taegun just laughs it off, admitting he might be overthinking it. Hyunju rubs his neck, wondering if it was really just a coincidence. He steps outside to make a call, but hesitates after what happened the night before. After a moment, he finally gathers the courage to call Yumin. He rushes to apologize as soon as she picks up. Yumin just jokes that she doesn't mind since she's also made a fool of herself from drinking too much. After all, she's a weirdo and very understanding. Hyunju frowns when he hears her call herself a weirdo, not realizing he was the one who called her that in the first place. Since she's outside, Yumin quickly ends the call, promising to get in touch later. As a result, Hyunju still hasn't had the chance to ask why she showed up at his restaurant or even thank her properly. Overhearing the conversation, Hakyoung curiously asks Yumin who that was. Yumin just replies, "It was an acquaintance. He got drunk and did something embarrassing, so he called to apologize, and although what he did wasn't much different from other drunk people, there were some weird actions, but nothing too bad, so it's fine." Meanwhile, Hakyoung is lost in thought, silently blaming her brother for ruining her plan to make Yumin her sister-in-law, seeing her looking downcast. Yumin feels regretful for bringing up Hyunju in front of Hakyoung. She feels she was being thoughtless. Even with things being the way they are between me and Hyunju, she still wanted to treat me to a meal, and here I am only thinking selfishly. As they leave, she thanks her for the delicious meal. Hakyung jumps for joy at being praised by Yumin for the good meal. She asks, "Where are you going? I'll give you a ride. My car is right over there." Hakyung says her manager is coming to pick her up, and offers to introduce her to the manager, still feeling guilty. Yumin apologizes, reassuring her that she doesn't need to feel awkward because she broke up with her brother, hoping they can both still be comfortable, as happy as before. Today, Hakyung breathes a sigh of relief, about to say she still hopes Yumin and her brother get back together. But before she can say it, the manager's car arrives. Yumin says her goodbyes and is about to leave when the car door opens, and she sees Sojung sitting inside. Yumin is completely shocked to see Sojung in the flesh just 2 steps away from her, a famous actress she's a huge fan of. Hakyung introduces a still flustered Yumin to Sojung. Sojung gets out and greets Yumin as if it's their first time meeting, even though she's seen her with Hyunju before as a huge fan. Yumin immediately stammers out praises for her roles and says she has watched all the movies she's been in. Sojung thanks her, surprised that Yumin even watched her debut film where her character barely had any lines. Sojung is very grateful to have such a devoted fan. Inside the car, the assistant hears the words the two are exchanging. Things are definitely about to get dramatic. Yumin increasingly shows herself to be a true stan of Sojung, defending her idol so fiercely that Hakyung flusteredly tells her to calm down. It seems her emotions are getting a little carried away. Sojung thinks to herself, "This girl is more interesting than I thought," and even offers to wait and drive Yumin home if she has time. Hakyung realizes things are getting out of control. Her words are meaningless now, and like a true fan. Yumin grins from ear to ear and agrees, even though she actually has her own car. Hakyung is speechless today. Yumin has really lost her mind. A few days later on the weekend, Yumin goes to the library, crossing her arms in front of her chest. She's now certain she knows how to find Hyunju. In public places, he usually hides in corners that other people don't pay attention to. With that thought, she peeks into the last aisle and calls out a greeting. Just as she expected, Hyunju is sitting there reading a book. Startled, he turns to greet her. He thanks her for everything, then suddenly makes a request. If something like that happens again, please slap him. He even begs her to do it. The people around only hear that part, and all of them are stunned. Yumin reassures him that it's okay, but he insists, even saying if one slap isn't enough, she can kick him where it hurts to sober him up immediately. What he said makes everyone in the bookstore shudder, confused by the bizarre request. Yumin pulls him to another side, deciding not to argue with such a stubborn person. She looks at him, perhaps he's still haunted by mistaking her for his ex-girlfriend. She ponders. If it were me, I would react the same way. Okay, Yumin suddenly says loudly. Okay. I'll slap you, I'll hit you just like you want, is that okay? I'll slap you, I'll hit you just like you want, is that okay? That's what she said, but everyone in the bookstore hears what she says and they are all astonished. They all think they're a weird couple with bizarre habits. Yumin sighs to the heavens for always getting dragged into strange situations with this man. But it's my fault. I can't blame anyone. Suddenly, Hyunju asked Yumin what her ex-boyfriend looked like. Realizing he'd never met him and wouldn't recognize him, Yumin nodded and admitted, "You're right, I've always been the one who went looking." She described her ex, smart, handsome, chivalrous, kind, and gentle. Hyunju was a little surprised. Does someone like that really exist? Yumin insisted, "Yes, you might not believe it, but I'm just telling the truth. He was a perfect person in my eyes." Yumin insisted that he might not believe it, but she was only telling the truth, that he was a perfect person in her eyes. His skin was darker than hers but lighter than Hyunju's. Hyunju's eyes widened, but she was still focused on reading her book. He snatched the book from her hand. Hyunju pointed ahead and asked, "Is that him over there?" Yumin looked in the direction he pointed, and saw the back of a man who looked very much like Isun from her description. A strange feeling surged up inside her. Even though she wanted to show him, she suddenly hoped it wasn't him. The man turned his head, and it wasn't. Yumin breathed a sigh of relief as Hyunju asked again, "Was that him?" She said, "No." Yumin breathed a sigh of relief when Hyunju asked again if it was him. She said it wasn't. Only his back looks similar. This dude's face is too ugly. He's much more handsome. Soon, they arrived at a restaurant for dinner. From walking so long, Yumin's feet were blistered. She told herself she needed to eat quickly and go home. Hyunju suddenly brought up a question he'd been pondering. "Why did you come to the restaurant that day?" he asked. "Is your house really on the way? I recall it's in the opposite direction." Yumin honestly replied that her house was in the complete opposite direction. She came because she was worried after seeing him leave in such a hurry. Hyunju wondered, "Why were you worried? We're not actually dating." Yumin stared at him, thinking to herself. Yumin honestly replied that her house was in the complete opposite direction. She came because she was worried after seeing him leave in such a hurry. Hyunju wondered why she was worried. They weren't actually dating. Yumin stared at him, thinking to herself, "This guy really doesn't understand common sense at all." How could she explain that she'd seen him like that once before, after a fight with his ex, and she was worried the same thing had happened again? Hyunju frowned, clearly displeased at the mention of that night, making Yumin regret her words. She quickly clarified it was just out of pity, and told him not to get the wrong idea. As she spoke, she crossed her chopsticks into an X. Then she asked if he and his ex had fought again the other day, the one when he got completely drunk. Hyunju remembered that moment. Fighting would be one thing, but they had already broken up. So why did she text him saying she was sick? In the end, did she just want to see me come running to her side again? She always wanted me to be the one chasing her, never willing to let go of her pride. That's just selfish love. She picked up a burnt piece of meat, saying that seeing his ex again would only hurt him. Just like this piece of meat. Yumin, as if reading his mind, scolded him irritably. You shouldn't have gone to see her, and don't act so pitiful. Don't let her see that you're the one with regrets, okay? Hyunju frowned. Aren't you the same way, Yumin? She replied that she'd never acted so desperate in front of her ex, but Hyunju pointed something out. That's because your ex has never contacted you first. He was right. She wondered how he knew that. He explained that when she and her friend came to his restaurant, she had asked Jihee after a breakup how long it takes for an ex to reach out again. You only asked because he hasn't contacted you, right? Hyunju was a quiet but perceptive man. She agreed that what he said was absolutely correct. That was also why at the bookstore, Yumin was afraid of actually running into him. What if he acted indifferent? What if he was genuinely happy to see her with a new boyfriend? She was a grown woman, yet she was still frightened, obsessed, and tormented by those thoughts. Hearing her confession, Hyunju finally understood why Yumin had come to his restaurant that day. She pitied him because she was going through something similar. That's why she felt responsible for staying with him. Out of concern, they were the only ones who knew each other's circumstances and pain. They knew they were being foolish, but that was their secret, not to be told to anyone else. Hyunju said that, and Yumin smiled. He was right, though not actually dating. They were still there, caring for each other. They chatted, unaware that not far away, Isun had seen Yumin smiling while talking to Hyunju. Yumin then frowned, chiding Hyunju for being so cold to her earlier when she was busy worrying about him. Though slightly annoyed, Hyunju unconsciously smiled hearing her ramble. But the very next second, he covered his mouth, realizing he'd smiled, and pretended to drink from his glass, looking away. Yumin noticed every change in his expression. She wondered why he was so hard to figure out, gentle one moment and cold the next. As she kept looking at him, her eyes suddenly widened. Through the glass behind him, she thought she saw Isun standing there, but seconds later, he was gone. She stood up abruptly, looking around, wondering if she had imagined it or if it was really him. A confused Hyunju asked what was wrong, but she just sat down and replied curtly, "It's nothing. Maybe I was mistaken." Isun got home after buying some food. As they sat down to eat, his younger sister asked if he was dating anyone. Isun said no, as he had no intention of dating. Hakyung pressed him. "Why not? Is there a reason?" "I just don't feel the need to," Isun replied flatly. Hakyung casually mentioned that she'd just seen Yumin and that she looked like she was dating someone. She said it deliberately to gauge her brother's reaction. Isun then revealed he'd also seen Yumin eating with a man on his way home. Hakyung was startled, asking, "You really saw a guy? Did you say hi? What did he look like?" Isun explained he only saw the man's back and didn't want to interrupt since she was with someone. In truth, he didn't want to do anything she might not like. Even on the day they broke up, he did exactly what she wanted. Hakyung looked at her brother worriedly and said, "Maybe Yumin wanted you to say hi. How would you know if you don't even try?" Elsewhere, Sojung sat in a room, unboxing a stylish, exquisitely designed bag. The quality was better than she'd thought, but the next moment, she threw it aside. Isun explained that he only saw the man's back and didn't want to bother them. Yumin said her company didn't have a physical store, so Sojung suggested looking at the website on her phone. Hakyung, sitting behind them, felt pleased to see her two older sisters getting along. But little did she know a storm was brewing between the two of them. As Yumin did so, she noticed how beautiful the color of Sojung's phone was. Surprisingly, Sojung asked for Yumin's number, stunning her, and saying she wanted to be friends. When they arrived, Sojung had one request: don't tell anyone about their connection. She unboxed a stylish bag with an exquisite design, the quality better than she expected, but threw it aside a moment later. She took a selfie with a bag from Yumin's shop and posted it on social media, as a form of compensation for Yumin, who was caught in the middle. She wanted to see the bag designs from Yumin's company. Yumin said the company didn't have a physical store, so. When Isun turned around, he greeted Hyunju and showed him a sickly kitten he had just found. A cat lover, Hyunju immediately bent down to check on it. But little did she know that a storm was brewing between the two. Yumin complied. She also suddenly noticed how beautiful Sojung's phone color was. Sojung stunned her by asking for her number, saying she wanted to be friends when they arrived. Sojung made only one request: don't reveal their connection to anyone. Yumin figured that as an actress, Sojung didn't want to attract attention. Yumin agreed, unaware the real reason was to hide it from Hyunju. Back in the present, provoked by Hyunju's strange attitude, Sojung decided to retaliate. She took a selfie with a bag from Yumin's shop and posted it on social media as a kind of compensation for Yumin, who was caught in the middle. The next morning, Hyunju was on his usual run, walking back toward his apartment building. He saw a man bending over nearby. It was the guy from the 4th floor. Hyunju was curious, wondering what he was doing. When Isun turned around, he greeted Hyunju, holding up a sickly-looking kitten he had just found. A cat lover, Hyunju immediately bent down to check it. Isun said he wanted to take it to the vet but was running late for work. Without hesitation, Hyunju picked up the cat and insisted on taking it himself. He owned his own restaurant, so he could be a little late, and he genuinely cared about cats. Relieved, Isun gave him his business card, asking him to let him know the costs so he could pay. Hyunju took the card and said he did it because he wanted to. He said there was no need for that, but that he would update him on the cat's condition later, and Isun introduced himself with his full name. Mentioning that they had met before but never exchanged names, Hyunju introduced himself in return. Then, Isun thanked him and hurried off to work. Meanwhile, Hyunju held the cat and watched his figure disappear. Elsewhere, Sojung's post made Yumin's handbag shop blow up. Inquiries flooded her inbox, and the entire collection sold out in just a few hours. She couldn't believe her eyes. The power of a celebrity was terrifying, but the fact that she had never paid Sojung for the promotion made it all seem too good to be true. She started to worry, an indescribable uneasy feeling growing inside her. Just then, Sojung called to explain that she genuinely liked the bag and posted about it just because it's something she does occasionally, when she finds a product she likes. Reassured, Yumin felt relieved and thanked her. Sojung even suggested they get lunch sometime. Immensely grateful, Yumin immediately agreed, insisting that lunch would be on her. After hanging up, Yumin excitedly called her mom to share the great news about her success. At the vet hospital, Hyunju arrived at the clinic after work. A few minutes later, Isun also showed up after he was done with his work. Hyunju said the kitten was doing better and just needed to stay for one more day of observation. Isun complimented Hyunju for being a cat lover, and Hyunju complimented him back for rushing to the vet hospital right after work. But he soon clarified that he neither likes nor dislikes cats. He just felt a sense of responsibility seeing a sick animal, unlike Hyunju, who genuinely loves them. Hyunju said there was nothing wrong with that, as it was better than being irresponsible. The two exchanged a few compliments. Though it was a bit formal, as they were walking, Hyunju's phone rang and he stepped aside to take the call. It was Yumin calling to postpone their next meeting. Hyunju didn't mind, but when Yumin asked if he was going to ask for a reason, he acted uninterested. Yumin cheerfully told him she had won the lottery, which finally got his attention, and he asked how much. Clearly, his interest was piqued. Even someone so cold and emotionless couldn't resist the allure of a lottery win. Clearly, his interest was piqued. Even someone so cold and emotionless couldn't resist the allure of a lottery win. Finally, Yumin told him the truth. Her shop had suddenly gone viral online, so she had to work overtime. She added that the person behind it was Sojung, who had posted the picture. Hyunju was stunned. He confirmed if she meant Sojung, the famous actress, and asked if they had met. Yumin quickly denied it, keeping her promise to Sojung. Hyunju realized Sojung must have found Yumin through his social media, and was now making this public move. He wondered if it was a warning, an act of arrogance, or both. In any case, it was good for Yumin, so he congratulated her. He wondered if it was a warning, an act of arrogance, or both. In any case, it was good for Yumin, so he congratulated her. When he said Yumin's name, Isun overheard but dismissed it as a coincidence since the name is quite common. It could be someone else. After the call, Hyunju and Isun headed home together since they lived in the same building. They discussed finding someone to adopt the kitten. A few days later, Hyunju was in a restaurant waiting for Yumin, scrolling on his phone. The kitten was healthy and looked very happy next to a small child. He felt extremely happy. He had given the kitten to an acquaintance. As they were catching up, he suddenly overheard a couple arguing. Looking up, he saw a girl breaking up with a guy, and the reason was unbelievable. The girl was angry because the guy always ordered food he liked, without any regard for her feelings. It was a small thing, but it was a sign of selfishness in the relationship as they stormed out. Yumin walked in just then and bumped hard into the man's shoulder. Then she saw Hyunju sitting in the corner. She suggested they move to a table by the window, but once seated, Yumin curiously asked about the couple who had just argued and left. Hyunju said it was nothing new. They broke up over a food order. He even said he had seen something similar before. As he thought back, his eyes widened, and he looked at Yumin. Yumin smiled and asked what he had seen that was so similar. 3 months ago, Hyunju was sitting in a cafe, reading news about Sojung's dating scandal. She was rumored to be involved with another actor. Just then, he overheard a girl saying she was fed up with the man. He turned to see Yumin, smiling brightly, declaring she was breaking up with Isun because she believed he was not worthy of her. She said those words with such a bright smile. What a small world. It turns out Hyunju had also been there that Christmas day and witnessed the whole thing. Those words struck a chord with Hyunju, as if they were being said to him. Back in the present, Yumin called out his name. Seeing him lost in thought, she told him it was fine if he could not remember, but Hyunju then asked, "Did you happen to break up on Christmas Day 3 months ago?" Surprised, Yumin asked how he knew. And Hyunju revealed he was at the same cafe that day, only just now putting it together. At the time, he could not understand how a girl could smile so brightly while breaking up with someone. But 3 months later, he did the very same thing, and Yumin had witnessed it. Now curious, Hyunju asked her why she broke up with Isun. Yumin sighed, knowing she could not explain everything properly while sober. So she ordered 3 bottles of soju. After drinking, she started sobbing, saying she never actually wanted to break up. She said they were supposed to get married and grow old together. Hyunju frowned. He wondered if her ex had cheated or committed some crime, but she insisted it was nothing like that. Her hair fell into her food, which was a bit gross. Hyunju tried to warn her, but it was too late. She continued crying, saying they had dated for 6 years. Yet he told her he had never felt a spark for her, that he loved her, but never found her attractive. Hyunju's eyes widened, unable to comprehend it, as Yumin's tears continued to fall. She said that is the kind of love you have for family or friends, not for a romantic partner. The more she talked, the more she wailed, letting it all out, while he held out tissues for her. Hyunju sighed, got up, and sat beside her to comfort her. He told her to look up and gently dabbed her tear-streaked face. He asked if her ex said that directly to her, and Yumin replied she had overheard it on the phone. Hyunju cursed under his breath. What an idiot. How could anyone say that? He then gently pushed her hair away from her face and wiped it clean with a tissue. Yumin looked at him, asking why he was suddenly so kind. He calmly replied that anyone would be kind to someone, crying with their hair in their tears. Realizing she had let her secret slip, Yumin told him to keep it to himself. Hyunju agreed and started to go back to his seat, but Yumin grabbed his shirt. Now that she had told her story, she wanted to hear his. Hyunju sighed, regretting he had ever asked. 6 years ago, a 5-year-old Hyunju was walking down the street when a girl called out asking for a lighter. The girl was Sojung, a 2-year-old aspiring actress. Flustered, since he did not smoke, Hyunju went into a nearby store, bought a lighter, and gave it to her. She asked if he could teach her how to light a cigarette, as she was auditioning for a smoker's role and had no idea how. Hyunju demonstrated for her, then stubbed the cigarette out on the wall before leaving. But she called him back, asking him to do it again as she had not seen clearly. Hyunju hesitated for a moment, but ultimately did not mind, especially after seeing her beautiful, radiant smile. From that day on, they started meeting frequently. Hyunju was working at a restaurant then, but he would often skip work just to see her. His boss could only sigh at the young man, hopelessly in love. He bought a lighter and gave it to her. She asked him to show her how to light a cigarette for an audition she had. He wanted to support her fully so she could focus on her auditions and chase her dream. During their first year, Hyunju was truly happy, cherishing every moment of their life together. But she called him back, asking him to do it again as she had not seen clearly. That day, Hyunju hesitated for a moment, but he ultimately did not mind, especially after seeing her beautiful, radiant smile. From that day on, they started meeting frequently. She said that because he was tall with a sharp gaze, he looked intimidating, and she did not want him to draw attention to them. Hyunju did not mind and did as she asked. But gradually, Sojung became paranoid about everything. If someone nearby even lifted their phone for a selfie, she would be convinced they were secretly photographing her and Hyunju. So she started avoiding meeting him in public, often leaving him standing alone, even when Hyunju tried to see her later. He wanted to support her fully so she could focus on her auditions and chase her dream. During their first year, Hyunju was truly happy. He cherished every moment of sharing his daily life with the one he loved. He was ready to give her everything she needed, believing their relationship was special. When she started her career, he was sure nothing would change. After their second year of dating, Sojung started avoiding him and shying away from crowds. Whenever they met in public, she'd ask Hyunju to sit in a hidden corner. She claimed it was because he was tall and had sharp, cold eyes, that he looked intimidating and she didn't want people staring at them because of him. Hyunju didn't mind and obediently did as she asked. But gradually, Sojung became paranoid about everything. If someone nearby raised their phone for a selfie, she'd be convinced they were secretly photographing her and Hyunju. Because of this, she avoided meeting him in public, leaving him standing alone, even when Hyunju tried to see her later. Her attitude remained the same, still terrified of being seen. Once, she even pushed his hand away when he offered her a water bottle. She told him not to touch her in public, as her career was just taking off and she didn't want anyone to know she had a boyfriend. Hyunju apologized for his thoughtlessness, but Sojung just gritted her teeth in frustration, telling herself maybe she treated him this way because he was too nice. From then on, they stopped meeting in public. No matter how hard he tried, Hyunju found it difficult to spend time with her. She was always busy with work. He saw her on TV more often than he saw her in person. Even contacting her by phone became difficult after their third year of dating. While scouting for locations, Hyunju finally found a place to open his own restaurant. He got a call from Sojung, who said she'd found a new, safer, and more spacious place to live. She insisted he should also move to an apartment near her manager's, even though he was happy with his current place. But Sojung urged him, saying it would make it easier for them to meet without any worries. Hyunju asked if she was trying to stop him from coming to her new place. But she reassured him it wouldn't be like that forever, and that he could visit freely by the summer of their fourth year. A rumor broke out that Sojung was involved with another actor, but she reassured Hyunju it was their first time meeting and the reporters were lying. At first, Hyunju believed her, but began to lose sleep from anxiety. After that scandal, Sojung became even busier and more famous, leading into the winter of their fourth year. Hyunju's fears came true when a second scandal erupted. When Sojung got home from work, she found him sitting on the sofa in the dark. As soon as she entered, he asked if she had deliberately started the rumor herself. As usual, Sojung tried to justify herself, but this time, Hyunju was certain she never did anything that would harm her own interests. So she must have known that spending time with the other actor would lead to a scandal. Then, she gently patted his cheek, asking how she could do something like that when a scandal would only hurt her. Hyunju coldly pushed her hand away. "You weren't hurt at all." He explained that the first scandal didn't harm her. In fact, a luxury brand made her an ambassador right after. The first scandal didn't harm her. In fact, a luxury brand made her an ambassador right after. Isn't everyone in this industry like that, always playing the victim? Her explanation only made Hyunju more certain he was correct. Everyone in this industry is like that, playing the victim. And her explanation only made Hyunju. But this time, all Hyunju wanted was reassurance. He just wanted her to apologize and say she loved him. He knew she understood that, yet she still chose not to put his mind at ease. This is a tool used to psychologically manipulate someone when you know they love you and give you their all, yet you deliberately keep them feeling anxious. This makes them chase after you blindly. This is a tool people use to psychologically manipulate someone when they know and that the other person loves and gives them everything, yet they still keep them feeling anxious. This makes them chase after you blindly. Hyunju suddenly realized he was being consumed by the relationship. He pulled away from her embrace and said they were over. He couldn't believe he had grown tired of the person he once loved so deeply. The shock was written all over Sojung's face. She had never imagined Hyunju would ever leave her. But from that day on, Hyunju said his goodbyes and never returned to that place again. In the present, he couldn't tell Yumin every detail without revealing that his ex was Sojung, so he just vaguely said he had been anxious throughout the relationship and that he broke up with her when he couldn't take it anymore. Yumin comforted him, saying it must have been very hard for him. But seeing how calm he was, she silently chided herself for crying so much when she told her story. That was the alcohol talking, Yumin. But today I'm sober. Even so, she was still surprised Hyunju was willing to share his story. Though he omitted key details, she understood everyone has things they want to keep private. Since the bus was late from the rain and taxis were hard to find, Hyunju walked Yumin home. Suddenly, a car sped by, splashing water and drenching Hyunju from head to toe. She frantically asked if he was okay. That driver was so inconsiderate. You're completely soaked. What now? Hyunju asked Yumin if she was okay. He insisted on continuing if she was fine. Worried he'd catch a cold, Yumin asked, "Do you want to come up to my place to dry off before heading home?" Hyunju agreed, but the moment he stepped inside and saw her messy living room, he regretted it. Yumin handed him a towel to dry off with, then told him to wait a moment while she went to get him a warm drink. He declined, saying, "No, it's okay, I'm fine." As he dried his hair with the towel, he thought to himself, this was a little awkward. I'll just dry off quickly and get going. Yumin thoughtfully brought him a warm cup of tea before he could head out. Drink this to warm up first. Though it felt a bit awkward, he was grateful and took a sip, but immediately spat it out. When he heard Yumin tell him to take off his shirt, he was startled and asked why she wanted him to undress. Yumin, meaning nothing by it, explained, "I have a new men's shirt. Yours is soaked and probably won't dry quickly. I just want you to change, so please don't misunderstand." It was then that Hyunju realized he had gotten the wrong idea. She must not be interested in him at all. While Yumin went to get the clothes, he wandered around the room. He looked at the photos on her fridge and saw pictures of some cats and one with Jihee. He guessed Yumin must be a cat lover. Then he noticed her childhood photos. Each one featured a different, strange hairstyle. He smiled, thinking she looked quirky and cute, like a mischievous kid. Suddenly, Yumin appeared and asked playfully, "My hair looked cool back then, right?" It startled him. Hyunju complimented the person who did those difficult hairstyles. Yumin explained it was her mom, who runs a hair salon. He quickly changed into the dry clothes, and then as he was about to leave, Yumin told him not to worry about returning the shirt, saying it was no use to her anymore. Hyunju just hummed in response. Guessing she had bought it for her ex, Hyunju watched as Yumin handed him her own jacket, saying it was oversized. It might even fit you. She told him to just borrow it and give it back later since it was her jacket. At first, Hyunju refused, but Yumin insisted, warning him he'd catch a cold if he wasn't careful. In the end, Hyunju left wearing her jacket. As he walked, he started to feel hot and sighed, thinking, I told her I was fine. But strangely, the jacket had a pleasant scent, so he kept it on. That night, Hyunju didn't take the jacket off until he got home. It was unclear if it was because he finally had someone to talk to about Sojung, or because of the long walk. But for the first time since their breakup, he slept soundly through the night. The next day, while serving a dish, Hyunju glared at him and snapped, "Just serve the customers and stop talking nonsense." Then he took out his phone and stared at the screen. Looking at his chat with Yumin, he wondered why she hadn't contacted him in a few days. He still needed to return her jacket. Had she given up since she hadn't run into her ex-boyfriend? His expression fell. It's not right to ask for my help and then just give up on your own like this. Soon after, his phone vibrated. He thought it was her, but it was a message from Isun asking him out for drinks that night. Thanks for your help with the cat. That night, Hyunju went to the bar Isun had picked out, but something felt familiar. That's right. This was the bar Yumin had brought him to, the one her ex-boyfriend often visited. He started wondering if the ex would be there that night, but he couldn't remember anything Yumin had told him about the guy. He thought he should ask her for a photo of the guy next time. Then he caught himself. Why was he thinking about Yumin? She wasn't here with him. While he was lost in thought, Isun arrived, and they sat down for drinks. She wasn't here with him while he was lost in thought. Isun arrived, and they sat down for drinks. And as they started wondering who could adopt it, Hyunju remembered the cat pictures on Yumin's fridge. He said he might know someone who likes cats. As he began typing a message, Two women walked up and asked. He said he might know someone who likes cats. As he started typing a message, two girls approached him. But then he glanced at Isun, wondering if he should ask him first before turning them down. Isun reassured him that he did the right thing. He had just gotten out of a relationship and wasn't used to this kind of situation. He asked Hyunju if he was seeing anyone. Hyunju hesitated for a moment before replying that he had also recently broken up with someone, adding that it's probably easier to talk about these things with a stranger. Isun mentioned that he used to come to this bar with his ex. The two started talking more comfortably, like friends. Hyunju wondered if she was here with someone else, and if so, how Isun would feel. But Isun said, the two started talking more comfortably, like friends. Hyunju wondered if she was here with someone else, and if so, how Isun would feel. But Isun said, he wondered if she was here with someone else, and if so, how Isun would feel. But Isun said, he had already seen her with another man and felt happy for her. Hyunju, startled, asked, how could you be happy? Isun explained that maybe it was just because it had been a long time, so he was happy to see her doing well. He was just happy, he said. Then asked Hyunju how he would feel in his situation. From the beginning, he had always had to hide himself, and when he saw his ex caught in a scandal with another man, he didn't feel jealous, only disappointed. Hyunju wondered to himself, if I met my ex now, how would I feel? Let's see, it probably wouldn't be pleasant. He asked Isun if he still had feelings for his ex and wanted to get back together. Isun calmly replied that it was entirely up to her. If she wanted to get back together, he would agree. If she didn't, he would respect her choice, whatever path she took. He also hoped she could live the way she wanted. Such a mature, noble man. Hyunju looked at him, thinking about how Isun had given his ex all the decision-making power. It seemed like he was simply following her lead, so Hyunju advised him to call her if he still had feelings. But then he stopped, realizing who was he to give advice, when he himself was in the middle of a strange plan with a complete stranger. Thinking of Yumin, he glanced toward the spot where the two of them had sat on their first fake date. Soon, he pulled out his phone to see if she had replied to his message, yet still no reply. Is she working late? He muttered. Isun overheard and asked who he was talking about. Hyunju explained it was the person he'd mentioned before, the one he thought could adopt the kitten. She usually replies very quickly, so Isun asked if it was a girl. Hyunju asked in surprise, how did you know? Isun said that he noticed Hyunju seemed tense and his hands were shaking a bit when he talked about her, so he guessed it was a girl. Hyunju denied it, even though he was actually shaking like a leaf. Isun curiously asked if he was dating her. Hyunju said they weren't, but were just working on a short-term project together. He insisted they couldn't be together because they were both still hung up on other people, but he soon pointed out that's what makes it dangerous. Because it seems they understand each other very well. Hyunju added that they could only be friends, plus their first meeting was a disaster. She often gets drunk and rambles on and on. She's annoyingly curious, and she cries and complains a lot. But then he added that she looks really pretty when she smiles, and no matter how much he teases her, she never gets mad. She's quite soft-hearted. As Hyunju continued talking about Yumin, Isun watched in surprise as he rambled on about a woman he insisted was just a friend. Realizing he'd said too much, Hyunju suddenly went quiet. He quickly added that they could be good friends, but absolutely nothing more. Isun didn't argue. He just hummed quietly, thinking to himself that Hyunju was an interesting guy. He didn't even seem to know his own feelings, and maybe that's why they say watching someone else's love story is always interesting. Just then, a message notification appeared. Hyunju quickly grabbed his phone, and Isun wondered. Was it from the girl he was just talking about? But Hyunju's expression changed instantly. It was a photo of a dinner table from Sojung, and what caught his eye was the phone in the photo. Why did it look so much like Yumin's? Meanwhile, Yumin had a busy day filled with work and meeting various people. As the day ended, she sat in her car, exhausted. Sitting there, she had a realization. She had forgotten about their fake dates lately, wondering if she should even continue, since there was still no sign of Isun anywhere. She imagined walking hand in hand with Hyunju, standing in front of her house. That would increase the chances of running into him. But that would be ridiculous. She wanted a chance encounter. It's amazing she even came up with such a difficult plan. Just then, her phone rang. Her first thought was that it might be Hyunju, but no, it was Sojung. It was strange to get a call from her, but Yumin went to meet Sojung anyway. Sojung greeted her warmly. As they sat down for drinks, she apologized for calling Yumin out on a Friday night, thinking she might have had plans with a boyfriend. Yumin assured her she didn't have a boyfriend, and that even if she did, she would choose to meet her idol over him anyway. Yes, meanwhile, Sojung took a picture of their table and sent it to Hyunju. With the message, I'm here eating with a friend and the atmosphere is really nice. I'd like to eat here with you sometime, Hyunju. Sojung then remarked that a wonderful person like Yumin must have many suitors. Yumin explained that she'd had a breakup late last year and had just been focusing on work since then. Sojung offered to set Yumin up with someone if she'd like. Yumin was a bit taken aback by the offer, but she politely declined, saying she was okay. Seeing a flash of sadness on Sojung's face, Yumin worried she had misspoken and quickly explained that she wasn't quite over her ex yet. Sojung replied that she was in the same boat, so she understood how Yumin felt. Hearing this, Yumin wondered if Sojung's ex was the actor from the cheating scandal. But Sojung quickly clarified that it wasn't what she was thinking. Her ex-boyfriend wasn't famous. She said she'd been in love with him since before she became an actress, and he had always been there to support her through every stage, even when she was busy with her career. Listening to her, Yumin asked, "But are you sure it's okay to be telling me this? We've only just met, after all." Sojung smiled, her eyes twinkling. "I know you'll keep it a secret. I trust you." The two continued their conversation, with Sojung sharing her love story, from how they started, how he was so kind and took care of her, and how that helped her career flourish. Just then, Yumin's phone rang. It was Hyunju. Yumin got up to take the call outside, but Sojung said she didn't mind and told her to take it at the table, so Yumin answered the call right there in front of her. As Yumin said Hyunju's name, Sojung's eyes were glued to her, realizing it was really him on the phone. On the call, Hyunju asked where she was, and she replied that she was out with a friend. Hyunju understood she was intentionally avoiding saying she was with Sojung. He asked if everything was alright, and Yumin seemed a bit flustered. She assured him she was fine and asked why he called. Hyunju said he called because she hadn't answered his text. Yumin said she was out and would look at it and text back later. Still worried, Hyunju just told her not to stay out too late. "Get home safely," he said before hanging up. Yumin found his call strange. He wasn't the type of person to call. Just for one ignored message, he was acting really unusual, but she put that thought aside for the moment. She told Sojung they could continue their conversation. Sojung began to sob, saying her ex used to love her so much, but now he's about to start seeing someone else. "Yumin, what should I do?" Yumin was taken aback. She asked if he was actually dating someone yet. "If not," she said, "then you shouldn't give up." Sojung stopped crying. She asked if Yumin really thought she should try to win him back. Yumin firmly advised her not to give up on him so easily. As a friend, Sojung smiled brightly, thanked Yumin, and said she would take her advice. When Sojung arrived home, she found Hyunju sitting in the living room. He asked her point blank, "This isn't the first time you've met Yumin, is it?" He stood up, saying that the issue between them was their own business, not Yumin's. "And you have no right to approach her like that," Sojung retorted. "Is that not what you've been showing on social media? Was that to get my attention? Because you didn't expect me to react this way, did you? How was I supposed to react then? You want me to beg you to come back?" She took his hand and pressed it against her cheek, softly saying, "I love you. I was wrong. I'm willing to give you anything you want. Just come back." Hyunju's love has always been about devotion and care, while Sojung's was about possession and control. For all these years, Sojung has always used Hyunju's insecurity to affirm her love. It was the most terrible form of psychological manipulation in a relationship. When he left, she was thrown into chaos by his unexpected action, but she never doubted his love. Hyunju said nothing. Instead, he reached out and lifted her face, gently caressing it as if looking at the face of someone he once loved. Then he turned and walked away, leaving just one sentence: "Leave Yumin alone." Sojung stood there, her fists clenched in anger. Oh boy, this dude just made a huge mistake. He doesn't understand women at all. Now, even if Yumin were as kind as a Buddha, telling his ex to leave another girl alone will just redirect all of Sojung's resentment towards Yumin. Ugh, this guy is hopeless. Back home, lying in bed, Yumin recalled how Sojung had said she wasn't feeling well and had to leave early. The meal ended earlier than expected. What a shame. She didn't even get a picture with her. She sat up, just remembering she still hadn't replied to Hyunju. Instead of texting, she decided to call. When he picked up, Yumin said she had seen the picture of the cat. "The one you sent, it's really cute, but unfortunately, she couldn't adopt it, because she lived alone and was busy." Hyunju understood, saying he figured she would say that. They had a short chat about how he found the cat. Then Yumin asked what he was doing right now. Hyunju replied that he was taking a walk in the park. Yumin asked in surprise, "Why are you out for a walk at this hour?" He answered honestly that he couldn't sleep. Yumin suddenly sat bolt upright in bed. She asked if something happened today, because even in their earlier call, he had been acting very strange. Hyunju reassured her that nothing was wrong. He then said he was about to hang up, but she quickly asked which park he was in. A little later, Yumin arrived at the park and remembered the times she had come here with Isun. She wondered if Hyunju lived nearby too. Before long, she saw Hyunju, and he was clearly very surprised to see that she had actually come, and even brought hot tea. He asked, "Why did you come?" And as they sat down on a bench together, Yumin replied that they were friends. She was worried because he sounded sad. Hyunju couldn't argue with that. After all, he had told Isun before that they were good friends. Seeing him silent, Yumin teased, "Aren't you going to get annoyed?" She remarked that something must have happened for him to be losing sleep like this. Then she asked casually, "You went to see your ex, didn't you?" Hyunju coughed lightly, making her frown. Now she was sure he had gone. Her gaze shifted to Hyunju, who was sitting quietly, enjoying the cool breeze, his slightly long hair swaying in the wind. She suggested he try pushing his hair back or cutting it a little shorter. Hyunju quickly used his hand to cover his face and let his hair fall back down, saying he didn't want to scare people, especially with his fierce-looking face. Yumin was surprised by that comment. She pointed out that he clearly had never read the reviews for his restaurant, more than half of which complimented the handsome owner. But Hyunju brushed it off, saying she was too naive to believe all those comments. Yumin sighed, scolding him for being overly modest. Or maybe he just wanted her to keep complimenting his looks. Or perhaps he was just pretending to be modest while actually loving the attention. Hyunju sighed, stood up to throw away the empty teacup, telling her to stop, saying he knew she was just joking to cheer him up. She also sighed, replying that she wasn't joking, just telling the truth. Finally, Hyunju smiled and admitted that either way, he felt better now thanks to her. As he went to throw away the cup, Yumin watched him, thinking that if he wasn't lying, then he really didn't understand himself at all. It was as if he had never looked in a mirror, or perhaps being in an unstable relationship had made him forget who he was. They both stood waiting for the bus. It had been a while since Yumin had been back in this area, because she used to come here often to visit Isun's place. Suddenly, she asked him, "Hyunju, you live around here too, right?" He replied, "That's right, I live in that alleyway too." She was startled and turned to look at him with a scrutinizing gaze. So he lives in the same alley as Isun. After that, she expressed a desire to see Hyunju's place and asked him to give her a tour. Hyunju found it strange but agreed. A little later, after a short walk, they arrived near Hyunju's house. They stopped in front of the building where he lived, and he pointed, saying that was his place. Yumin was shocked because it was the exact same building where her ex-boyfriend, Isun, also lived. The next day, Hyunju was working at the restaurant as usual. While wiping the counter, his mind drifted back to the previous night, when Yumin had suddenly insisted on going home right after they reached his building. Just moments before, she had been eager to see his place, yet she left in such a hurry. It left him feeling confused. Was she genuinely curious, or was there another reason? But then again, he could totally picture her doing things like that. After all, she once came to see him in the middle of the night just because he sounded sad. Maybe asking to see his home that day was just a pretext as well. Still, she was really kind, and the thought of it made him smile. Taegan approached from behind. "Hey, are you free this Sunday?" Hyunju hesitated a bit. Technically, yes, but what if Yumin already had plans? Taegan pleaded, "Come on, man, you have to go." Taegan didn't wait for an answer. "I've already told Jihee and Yumin, let's go glamping." Now he was sure she would go. So Hyunju agreed without hesitation. As planned, the four of them arrived at the glamping site on Sunday. While Yumin was busy taking things out of the car trunk, Hyunju quietly walked over and took the bags from her hands. Then he neatly arranged everything in the fridge. She sat down next to him and whispered softly, "I'm sorry, I feel bad." Because the recent outings she planned might have tired him out, but Hyunju looked at her and said she didn't need to apologize. "Actually, I had fun on those outings." That made her smile, easing some of her guilt. Taegan called for them to come outside. As they explored the scenery together, both of them felt shy.